What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Cryptid Saturday, and honestly, I'm probably going to have to change up how I've been doing this cryptid content. Realistically, it just doesn't get the views that my other content does, so it kind of doesn't really fit in, so probably might do one or two more of these, maybe a couple more of the cryptids that I like, and then I'm going to try and move on to some other thing that's still kind of cryptid related, but more in line with media. So, as promised though, this is the part 2 of my Cryptid Saturdays Loch Ness Monster video. In this one, we're going to go over the searches for the Loch Ness Monster. But before we get into that, guys, I'm trying to hit 1,300 subscribers still, and I could probably hit that by the end of the year with y'all's help. So if you guys give me a hand by hitting that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. Edwards Mountain Expedition of 1934. After reading Rupert Gould's Loch Ness Monster and others, Edward Mountain financed a search. 20 men with binoculars and cameras positioned themselves around the loch from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 5 weeks, beginning on 13 July 1934. Although 21 photographs were taken, none was considered conclusive. Supervisor James Francier remained by the loch filming on 15 September 1934. The film is now lost. Zoologists and professionals of natural history concluded that the film showed a seal, possibly a gray seal. The Loch Ness Phenomenon Investigation Bureau. The Loch Ness Phenomenon Investigation Bureau was a UK-based society formed in 1962 by Norms Collins, R.S.R. Filter, politician Dave James, Peter Scott, and Constance White, to study Loch Ness to identify the creature known as the Loch Ness Monster or determine the cause of reports of it. In 1967, it received a grant of $20,000 from World Book Encyclopedia to fund a 2-year program of daylight watches from May to October. The principal equipment was 35mm movie cameras on mobile units with 20-inch lenses and one with a 36-inch lens at Achnahanet near the midpoint of the loch. With the Mobius units in laybys, about 80% of the loch surface was covered. The society's name was later shortened to the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau, and it disbanded in 1972. The LNIB had an annual subscription charge which covered administration. Its main activity was encouraging groups of self-funded volunteers to watch the loch from vantage points with film cameras with telescope lenses. From 1965 to 1972, it had a caravan camp and viewing platform at Achnahanet, and sent observers to other locations up and down the loch. According to the Bureau's 1969 annual report, it had 1,030 members, of whom 588 from the UK. The sonar study in 1967 through 1968. D. Gordon Tucker, Chair, Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering at the University of Birmingham, volunteered his services as a sonar developer and expert at Loch Ness in 1968. His gesture, part of a larger effort led by LNPIB from 1967 to 1968, involved collaboration between volunteers and professionals in a number of fields. Tucker had chosen Loch Ness as his test site for a prototype sonar transducer with a maximum range of 800 meters. The device was fixed underwater at Temple Pier in Urquhart Bay and directed at the opposite shore, drawing an acoustic net across the loch through which no moving object could pass undetected. During the 2-week trial in August, multiple targets were identified. One was probably a school of fish, but others moved in a way not typical of shoals at speeds of up to 10 knots. Robert Rhine's study, 1972, 1975, 2001, and then 2008. In 1972, a group of researchers from the Academy of Applied Sciences, led by Robert H. Rhines, conducted a search for the monster involving sonar examination of the loch depths. For unusual activity, Rhines took precautions to avoid murky water with floating wood and peat. A submersible camera with a floodlight was deployed to record images below the surface. If Rhines detected anything on the sonar, he turned on the light and took pictures. On August 8th, Rhines' Rayton DE-725C sonar unit, operating at a frequency of 200 kilohertz and anchored at a depth of 11 meters or 36 feet, identified a moving target or targets estimated by echo strength at 6 to 9 meters, 20 to 30 feet in length. Specialists from Rayton Simard, now considered maritime hydroacoustics, Marty Klein and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Klein Associates, and Ira Dyer of MIT's Department of Ocean Engineering were on hand to examine the data. Key skits of Raytheon suggested that the data indicated a 3-meter, 10-foot protuberance projecting from one of the echoes. According to author Roy Muckle, the shape was a highly flexible, literally flattened tail, or the misinterpreted return from two animals swimming together. Concurrent with sonar readings, the fluted camera obtained a pair of underwater photographs. Both depicted what appeared to be a rhomboid flipper, although skeptics have dismissed these images as depicting the bottom of the loch, air bubbles, a rock, or a fish fin. The apparent flipper was photographed in different positions, indicating movement. The first flipper photo is better known than the second, and both were enhanced and retouched from the original negatives. According to team member Chris Wyckoff, the photos were retouched to superimpose the flipper. The original enhancement showed a considerably less distinct object. No one is sure how the originals were altered. During a meeting with Tony Harmsworth and Adrian Shine at Loch Ness Center of Exhibition, Rines admitted that the flipper photo may have been retouched by a magazine editor. British naturalist Peter Scott announced in 1975, on the basis of the photographs, that the creature's scientific name would be Nicetris rhombopitrix, Greek for Ness inhabitant with diamond-shaped fin. Scott intended the name would enable the creature to be added to the British Register of Protected Wildlife. Scott politician Nicholas Fabrine called the name an anagram for Monster Hoax by Sir Peter S. However, Rines countered that when rearranged, the letters could spell, yes, both pics are monsters. Another sonar contact was made, this time with two objects estimated to be about 9 meters, 30 feet. The strobe camera photographed two large objects surrounded by a flurry of bubbles. Some interpreted the object as two plesiosaurs-like animals, suggesting several large animals living in the loch. This photograph has rarely been published. A second search was conducted by Rines in 1975. Some of the photographs depict their obviously murky quality and lack of concurrent sonar readings did indeed seem to show unknown animals in various positions and lighting. One photograph appeared to show the head, neck, and upper torso of a plesiosaur-like animal, but skeptics argue the object is a log due to the lump on its chest area, the mass of sediment in the full photo, and objects along like skin texture. Another photograph seemed to depict a horned gargoyle head, consistent with that of some sightings of the monster. However, skeptics point out that a tree stump was later filmed during Operation Deep Sea Scan in 1987, which bore a striking resemblance to the gargoyle head. In 2001, Rines Academy of Applied Scientists videotaped a V-shaped wake traversing still water on a calm day. The Academy also videotaped an object on the floor of the loch resembling a carcass and found marine clamshells and a fungus-like organism not normally found in freshwater lochs, a suggested connection to the sea and possibly entry for the creature. In 2008, Rines theorized that the creature may have become extinct, citing the lack of significant sonar readings and a decline in eyewitness accounts. He undertook a final expedition using sonar and underwater camera in an attempt to find a carcass. Rines believed that the animals may have failed to adapt to temperature changes resulting from global warming. Operation Deep Sea Scan 1987. Operation Deep Sea Scan was conducted in 1987. 24 boats equipped with echo-sounding equipment were deployed across the width of the loch and simultaneously sent acoustic waves. According to BBC News, the scientists had made sonar contact with an unidentified object of unusual size and strength. The researchers returned, rescanning the area. Analysis of the echo sounder images seemed to indicate debris at the bottom of the loch. Although there was motion in 3 of the pictures, Adrian Shine speculated, based on size, that they might be seals that had entered the loch. Sonar expert Dale Lawrence, founder of Lawrence Electronics, donated a number of echo sounder units used in the operation. After examining a sonar return indicating a large moving object at a depth of 180 meters, 560 feet near Urquhart Bay, Lawrence said, "There's something here that we don't understand, and there's something here that's larger than a fish. Maybe some species that hasn't been detected before, I don't know." Searching for the Loch Ness Monster, 2003. In 2003, the BBC sponsored a search for the loch using 600 sonar beams and satellite tracking. The search had sufficient resolution to identify a small buoy. No animal of substantial size was found, and despite their reported hopes, the scientists involved admitting that this proved the Loch Ness Monster was a myth. Searching for the Loch Ness Monster aired on BBC One. Adrian Shine and Kongsberg Maritime, 2016. Adrian Shine of the Loch Ness Project visited Scotland, supported a survey of the loch using an underwater robot operating by Kongsberg Maritime. While investigating the depths of the loch, they found the resting place of a Nessie prop created by Will Wilder's 1970 film, The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. Whaley Weavers had designed the prop initially with a neck and 2 humps, but Wilder disliked the humps and ordered them removed. This change, altered the buoyancy, and the prop promptly sank into the loch during a filming test. DNA Survey 2018. An international team consisting of researchers from the University of Otago, Copenhagen, Hull, and the Highland and Islands did a DNA survey of the lake in June 2018, looking for unusual species. The results were published in 2019. No DNA of a large fish such as sharks, sturgeons, and catfish could be found. No other seal DNA were obtained either, though there was a lot of eel DNA. The leader of the study, Prof. Neil Gamil of the University of Otago, said he could not rule out the possibility of eels of extreme size, though none were found nor were any ever caught. The other possibility is that the large amount of eel DNA simply comes from many small eels. No evidence of any reptilian sequences were found, he added, so I think we can be fairly sure that there is probably not a giant scaly reptile swimming around in Loch Ness. High-Tech 2023 90th Anniversary Search. In August 2023, a weekend of high-tech searching was done in observance with the 90th anniversary of the 1933 Aldine Mackay sighting. The event was coordinated by Loch Ness Exploration volunteers in collaboration with the Loch Ness Visitor Center. The technology used included sonar for mapping the loch bed, thermal imaging, drones to scan the surface, and hydrophones, which did record some sounds but were probably ducks. Despite a large turnout of searchers on site and hundreds more viewing internet live stream cameras pointed at the loch, there were no conclusive sightings. So, lots of searches? No one's ever found anything quite as definitive as, in my opinion, those sonar pictures. But, you know, kind of means that there's not something there, or it could just mean there's not something there all the time. But now we can actually get into some of the explanations. Misidentification of known animals. Eels. A large European eel was an early suggestion for what the monster was. Eels are found in Loch Ness, and an unusually large one would explain many sightings. Disdale dismissed the hypothesis because eels undulated side to side like snakes. Sightings in 1956 of a sea serpent, or kelpie, in a freshwater lake near Lirabost in the Outer Herbs were explained as those of an oversized eel, also believed common in the Highland Lakes. From 2018 to 2019, scientists from New Zealand undertook a massive project to document every organism in Loch Ness based on DNA samples. Their reports confirmed that European eels are still found in the loch. No DNA samples were found for large animals such as catfish, Greenland sharks, or plesiosaurs. Many scientists now believe that giant eels account for many of, if not most, of these sightings. An elephant. In a 1979 article, California biologist Dennis Power and geographer Donald Johnson claimed that the surgeon's photograph was the top of the head, extended trunk, and flared nostrils of a swimming elephant, photographed elsewhere and claimed to be from Loch Ness. In 2006, paleontologist and artist Neil Clark suggested that traveling circuses might have allowed elephants to bathe in the loch. The trunk could be the perceived head and neck, while the head and back are the perceived humps. In support of this, Clark provided an example painting, which I didn't find, but you guys can go look for it. Greenland shark. Zoologist, angler, and television presenter Jeremy Wade investigated the creature in 2013 as part of the series River Monsters and concluded that it is a Greenland shark. The Greenland shark, which can reach up to 20 feet in length, inhabits the North Atlantic Ocean around Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, and possibly Scotland. It is dark in color with a small dorsal fin. According to biologist Bruce Wright, the Greenland shark could survive in fresh water, possibly using rivers and lakes to find food, and Loch Ness has an abundance of salmon and other fish. Wells catfish. In July 2015, 3 news outlets reported that Steve Feltham, after a vigil at the loch that was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records, theorized that the monster is an unusually large specimen of Wells catfish, which may have been released during the late 19th century. Other resident animals. It is difficult to judge the size of an object in water through a telescope or binoculars with no external reference. Loch Ness has resident otters and photos of them and deer swimming in the loch, which were cited by author Ronald Binns, which may have been misinterpreted. According to Binns, birds may be mistaken for a head and neck sighting. And then the rest of these are kind of obvious, like boat wakes making the V shape when their water is still, people seeing tree trunks with branches and stuff kind of popping out. Seaches and wakes. I don't know what a seach is, but I think it's like ripples or something like that. So that could have been optical effects, you know, where you're looking at the water and things like that. Seismic gas, which could create the bubbles in the loch. There's been a lot of like non-animal excuses for what these things could have been. And then it actually all just comes down to the folklore, because in 1980, Swedish naturalist and author Benjit Sjoren wrote that present beliefs in lake monsters such as the Loch Ness Monster are associated with Kelpie legends. According to Sjorgen, Accounts of Loch monsters have changed over time, originally describing horse-like creatures. They were intended to keep children away from the loch. He wrote that Kelpie legends have developed to descriptions reflecting a modern awareness of plesiosaurs. The Kelpie as a water horse in Loch Ness was mentioned in 1979 Scottish newspaper and inspired by Tim Distane's Project Waterhorse. A study of pre-1933 Highland folklore represents to Kelpies, water horses, and water bulls, indicating that Nessie was the loch's most frequently sighted. And then there has been quite a bit of hoaxes over the time, and you know, the most famous one being the surgeon's photograph. But there's also been like people making fake plesiosaurs, putting them in the lake, some people just tying logs and making them disappear. There's been a lot of like different things people have done over the years to kind of fake the Loch Ness Monster. Then plesiosaurs. So the whole plesiosaur thing comes from, in 1933, it was suggested that the creature bears a striking resemblance to the supposedly extinct plesiosaur, a long-necked aquatic reptile that became extinct during the Cretaceous Pelagian extinction event. Popular explanation at the time, the following arguments have been made against it. The osteology of the neck makes it absolutely certain that plesiosaurus could not lift its head up and could not lift its head up like a swan out of the water. The loch is only about 10,000 years old, dating to the end of the last ice age. Before then, it was frozen for about 20,000 years. If creatures similar to plesiosaurs lived in Loch Ness, they would be seen frequently since they would have to surface several times a day to breathe. And due to the lack of plankton, there is not enough food in Loch Ness to sustain a family of plesiosaurs. In response to those criticisms, Tim Disdain, Peter Scott, and Roy McCall postulated a trapped marine creature that evolved from a plesiosaur directly or by convergent evolution. Robert Lyons explains that the horns in some sightings function as breathing tubes or nostrils, allowing it to breathe without breaking the surface. Newer discoveries of plesiosaurs, such as Leptocleidae, could handle fresh water, along with Mortunaria, which thrived in Arctic waters. While it supported the idea that a plesiosaur could handle the environment of Loch Ness, it doesn't support the idea that Nessie is one. Long-necked giant amphibian. R.T. Gold suggested a long-necked newt. Roy McCall examined the possibility, giving it the highest score, 88%, on his list of possible candidates, so just a newt that we don't know of. And then an invertebrate. In 1968, F.W. Holliday proposed that Nessie and other lake monsters, such as morag, may be large invertebrates such as bristleworm. He cited the extinct Tully monstrum as an example of the shape. According to Holliday, this explains the land sightings and the variable back shape. He likened it to the medieval descriptions of dragons as worms, although this theory was considered by Michael. He found it less convincing than eels, amphibians, or even plesiosaurs. That one was so bad that he actually thought it could, that's actually worse than the fact that it could just be a giant extinct lizard. But guys, that is it. That are at least Wikipedia of all of these searches that have taken place for the Loch Ness Monster, as well as some scientific things as to what it could be. Now, to me, it honestly doesn't matter whether the Loch Ness Monster was real, continues to be real, or was ever real, because what this has done is it has given the people near Loch Ness not only a means of tourism that brings people to this loch, but it also gives them a reason to go outside and look for these creatures, which, in my opinion, is all it needs in order for that to be real. If you believe that myth is real and you're willing to go look for it, then it can be real to you. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. While you're down there, please remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. Like I said, we're going to be changing up this format here soon, so if you guys have any cryptids you want to see me do or cover, and if you have any cryptids from movies that you want to see me do or cover, that would be greatly appreciated. Leave those in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.